The archive of the Galactic Union was bigger than some planets. Row after row of glowing data pillars stretched into the distance, each holding the recorded history of thousands of worlds. It was silent, here too silent. Even the air felt heavy, as if the walls knew the secrets they held. Laren, a junior historian barely out of training, moved carefully through the corridors. His job was simple: review random files for errors and log them for repair. Most days it was boring. Most days nothing surprising ever happened. But today was different. As Laren scanned a section labeled Human History, a red icon blinked on one of the shelves. It was an old storage crystal, half buried in dust. Label on its case read, "Erased by order of the Council." Files marked like this were supposed to be destroyed, not left sitting in the archives. Laren hesitated. The rules were clear: tampering with an erased file could mean prison, or worse, but something about it pulled at him. His fingers shook as he slid the crystal from its slot and placed it into his datapad. The screen went black. Then a single line of text appeared. "If you are reading this, it means they failed to kill the last witness." A chill ran through him. This was no normal historical entry. This was a warning. He almost pulled the crystal out, but then the screen flickered and a damaged video began to play. The image was shaky, distorted, but Laren could make out the scene: a black void of space. Hundreds of alien warships, bigger than cities, advancing. They fired beams of light so bright the screen turned white. And in the middle of that chaos, a small fleet of human ships. Old designs, rusted hulls, outnumbered at least 20 to 1. Laren expected to see them destroyed in seconds. They didn't break. The humans moved fast, almost impossibly fast. Their ships weaved between enemy fire, striking with precision. One after another, the alien warships exploded into fire. Within minutes, the massive enemy fleet began to fall apart. It wasn't a victory, it was a slaughter. Laron's mouth hung open. This was impossible. Every official record said humans were a minor species, militarily incapable, barely spacefaring. They were supposed to be irrelevant in galactic warfare, and yet here was proof they had destroyed an invasion force that should have been unstoppable. The footage cut to a human commander on the bridge of a ship. He looked calm, but his eyes were cold and sharp. Behind him, his crew worked in silence. The commander spoke into the recorder. "They will erase this," he said. "They will say it never happened. But if you are watching, remember this: humanity stood alone, and we won." The image froze, then dissolved into static. Laren sat frozen in his chair. His training told him to report this immediately. His instincts told him to hide it. He chose the latter. He copied the file onto a private drive and deleted the playback log so no one would know he had opened it. But as he began restoring more corrupted data from the crystal, a warning flashed across his screen. "Unauthorized access detected. Security en route." His heart pounded. Someone was already on their way. He quickly yanked the crystal from his datapad and stuffed it into his coat. The archive's soft blue light suddenly turned red, and the quiet halls filled with the distant sound of approaching footsteps. Laren slipped into a maintenance corridor, his mind racing. Who were they? Why hide this? And most terrifying of all, what would they do to him now that he had seen it? As he reached the exit, he looked back one last time at the endless rows of glowing data pillars. How many other truths were buried here? How many other stories had been erased? But for now, only one thought filled his mind. Someone had tried to bury humanity's greatest victory, and he had just dug it up. The night air on Yellorin Station was always cold, even inside the city domes. Laren kept his hood low and his steps quick. The stolen crystal felt heavy in his pocket, as if it could burn through the fabric at any moment. He knew he couldn't go home. The Union's security directorate would already be tracking his access codes. The moment they found him, the crystal would be gone. And so would he. But there was one problem. The file he'd recovered wasn't complete. There were missing sections, big ones. And in one fragment of the video, right before the static took over, he'd seen something unusual. A single human ship breaking formation, not retreating, not destroyed, moving with purpose, like it had somewhere to be. If that ship had escaped the battle, maybe someone from that crew was still alive. And if they were alive, they would know. The truth, Laren had to find them. He left the station's main levels and slipped into the underdeck Marquitza maze of shadowy corridors, flickering signs and the smell of oil and cooked meat. It was here the rules of the Union didn't reach, and where smugglers sold what no legal trader would touch. His contact, a wiry old information broker named Jox, was exactly where Laren expected, leaning on the counter of a cramped booth, sipping from a steaming cup. "You look like trouble," Jox said, without even glancing up. "I need a ship," Trace Laren whispered. "Old model, human registry." That made Jox look up. His eyes narrowed. "You're digging in dangerous dirt, boy. I'll pay." Laren slid a small credit chip across the counter. Jox took it, glanced around, and then pulled up a holographic display. "Describe it." Laren did. Jox's fingers danced across. "The console." Finally, the broker grunted. "Found it. Reestree says it was the Ardent Flame. Went missing after a classified engagement. Officially, the crew's dead." "But they're not," Laren pressed. Jox smirked. "If you believe rumors one of them's alive, lies on a mining colony in the outer fringes. Goes by the name Captain Mara Vale. Doesn't talk much about the past." That night, Laren took the first transport out. The trip to the outer fringes took 3 days. He didn't sleep much. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the battle against the human fleet cutting through the impossible enemy. And that calm commander's voice, "They will erase this." When he finally arrived, the colony was worse than he expected. A dusty, dying world, its skies stained orange by a polluted atmosphere. He followed directions through the settlement until he reached a small metal cabin near the edge of the mining pits. He knocked. For a moment, there was nothing. Then the door slid open, and a tall woman stood there. Her hair was streaked with gray, her clothes plain, but her eyes were sharp, calculating, dangerous. "Whatever you're selling, I'm not interested," she said. "I'm not selling anything," Laren replied quickly. "I'm looking for the last survivor of the Ardent Flame." Her expression didn't change, but her hand tightened on the doorframe. "You need to leave." "Now I saw the battle," Laren said. "It's the one they erased. I have the file." That froze her. Slowly, she stepped aside and motioned him in. Inside, the cabin was sparse, just a table, 2 chairs, and a wall covered in old star maps. She sat down, never taking her eyes off him. "You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into," she said quietly. "They'll kill you for knowing it exists." "Then help me tell it," Laren said. For a long moment, Mara Vale just stared at him. Then she leaned back, her gaze distant. "They didn't erase the battle because humans won," she said. "They erased it because of how we won." Before Laren could ask what she meant, the cabin's lights flickered. A deep, rumbling hum filled the air, the sound of an approaching dropship. Mara stood and moved to the window. "They found you?" she said. "And now, they found me." The ground shook as the Union dropship touched down. Its engines roared, kicking up dust that stung Liran's eyes. Inside the cabin, Mara moved with the precision of someone who'd been in this situation before. She pulled a small, weathered case from under the table and tossed it to Laren. "Hold that tight," she said. "If they get it, none of this matters." "What's in it?" Laren asked. "The part of the story they didn't want anyone to know." She grabbed a rifle from the wall and checked the power cell. "Now move." They darted out the back door just as the front door blew inward. Splinters of metal and dust rained down as black armored soldiers poured inside. Mara led Laren through the narrow alleys between mining shacks, weaving around piles of scrap and broken machinery. The soldiers were fast, too fast. One spotted them and shouted. Laser bolts sizzled past Laren's head, scorching the wall beside him. Keep running, Mara barked. They reached the edge of the mining pit, a vast open crater stretching 4 kilometers. An old cargo lift sat at the rim, its control panel half rusted. Mara slammed a button and the lift began its slow descent. Get down there and don't stop until you see the tunnels. What about you? Laren asked. I'll buy you time. Before he could argue, she turned and fired at the soldiers closing in. Bolts of energy lit the dusty air. Reluctantly, Laren climbed onto the lift. It rattled and groaned as it lowered into the pit. Halfway down, something hit the lift's cables. It lurched violently, and Laren had to grab the railing to keep from falling. Above, Mara was still fighting, but she was being pushed back. The soldiers had numbers, armor, and speed. Then Laren saw one of them pull a strange device from his belt, a shimmering silver sphere. He threw it, exploded midair, releasing a wave of static energy that knocked Mara off her feet. Mara! Laren shouted. She didn't move. 2 soldiers rushed forward and dragged her toward the dropship. Laren's heart pounded. He wanted to go back, but the lift was still moving, and the case in his hands felt like a living weight. The lift finally reached the bottom. Laren sprinted toward the nearest tunnel entrance, the stale air thick with the smell of rock dust. He didn't know where he was going, but he had to disappear before the soldiers came for him next. He followed the tunnels deep into the darkness until he reached an old miner's shelter. Inside, he opened the case. There was a small encrypted data drive inside, along with a single paper photographs, something rare in the galaxy. The photograph showed Mara Vale standing with a group of human soldiers in front of a strange alien structure. They were smiling. Behind them, the sky burned red with battle fire. On the back, in faded ink, were the words, "The weapon that should never exist." Laren stared at the picture, his mind racing. Was this what the battle had really been about? Not defense, but a weapon powerful enough to terrify the Union. Before he could think further, a voice crackled in the dark tunnel. You've got something of mine. Laren froze. From the shadows stepped a tall figure in battered armor, not Union armor. Not mining gear, but human. The stranger's eyes locked on the case. If you want to live, give it to me. Cliffhanger, the sound of approaching boots echoed from the tunnel behind Laren. Soldiers were closing in on now. He didn't know if the man in front of him was a friend or another enemy. The weapon that should never exist, the tunnel air, grew colder. Laren's grip on the case tightened as the armored man stepped closer. I don't know who you are, Laren said, his voice shaking. That's not important, the man replied. His voice was calm, but there was something dangerous in it. What you're holding, the Union will kill you for it. And if you keep it, they'll kill everyone you know. Laren glanced behind. Him, the sound of boots and metallic clinks was growing louder. Union soldiers were coming fast. The man extended his hand. Give it to me now. A blast of light suddenly shot down the tunnel, hitting the wall inches from the man's head. He didn't flinch. Another figure appeared from a side tunnel. It was a human woman, not Mara. She wore scavenger armor patched with alien tech. Don't trust him, she shouted to Laren. He's with them. The man snarled. She's lying. Laren's head spun. 2 strangers, both human, both saying they were on his side. But both wanting the same thing, the case. The soldiers were seconds away now. The woman raised a strange weapon, a compact cannon that hummed with unstable energy. You have one choice, kid. Come with me or die with him. The armored man moved like lightning, grabbing Laren's arm. You hand me that case, and I'll make sure you walk out of here alive. She can't protect you. The thudding boots grew louder. Liron's heart pounded. In the end, he did the only thing he could. He ran. He bolted into the narrowest side tunnel, clutching the case against his chest. The woman cursed and ran after him. The armored man shouted and followed too. The tunnel twisted and turned, the ground uneven and slick. Liron's foot slipped and he nearly fell into a deep shaft that dropped into darkness. The woman grabbed him by the collar, yanking him back just in time. "Careful," she hissed. They kept running until the tunnel opened into an old mining chamber. Broken machines and empty fuel drums littered the floor. "Barricade the door," she ordered. Together, they shoved a heavy loader vehicle across the entrance just as the soldiers reached it. Fists and weapons slammed against the metal, but it held at least for now. Liron gasped for breath. Who are you?" The woman glanced at the case. "Name's Kale. I'm a survivor of what happened in that battle, the one they erased." "You were there?" Liron asked. She nodded. "And I know what's on that drive. It's not just a record, it's the design for something the galaxy swore never to build again." Liron hesitated. "A weapon." "Not just a weapon," Kale said. "A machine that can erase entire star systems. No debris, no survivors, just gone." Before Liron could reply, the barricade shook violently. Sparks flew from the loader's frame as something cut through the metal. Kale grabbed Liron's arm. "We need to move now." They ran toward another exit deeper into the mine. Liron's mind swirled with questions, but one thought kept hammering in his head. If the Union had erased all record of this, what would they do to someone who actually had the weapons plans? Cliffhanger. Just before they reached the exit, a shadow stepped into their path. It was the armored man from before this time, flanked by two more humans in similar gear. He smiled coldly. "Thanks for bringing the case to us." The mining chamber fell silent except for the slow crunch of armored boots. The man stopped just a few feet away from Liron and Kale. His visor hid his eyes, but the grin on his face was sharp and mocking. "You've caused quite a mess, boy," he said, running through Union-secured tunnels, dodging patrols, carrying that Liron's hands tightened on the case. "If it's so dangerous, why do you want it?" The man tilted his head. "Because it doesn't belong to the Union. It belongs to us." Kale stepped in front of Liron, her weapon raised. "Don't listen to him. He's a Union agent, one of the ones who made sure no one remembered the truth." The man chuckled. "Union? No, I left them long ago. You could say I'm part of the cleanup crew. It's the people who make sure history stays the way it's written." The two soldiers behind him moved into position, cutting off the only exit. "Hand over the case," the man said. "You don't understand the danger. That file doesn't just tell a story, tells where to find the last witness. And trust me, it's far worse than any weapon." Liron frowned. "The last witness?" Kale didn't take her eyes off the man. "He's lying." But the man kept talking, his voice slow, deliberate. "The last survivor of that battle saw something no one else did. She knows how the humans really won. And if the galaxy learns the truth..." He let the sentence hang. Kale's grip tightened on her gun. "Nuff. Move aside or I'll shoot." The man's smirk didn't fade. "You won't. Because if you fire, these tunnels collapse and we all die." Liron's pulse raced. Every word, every movement felt like a trap. "Why erase the truth?" Liron demanded. The man's voice dropped. "'Cause the truth isn't what you think. Humans didn't win because of strength or bravery or luck. They won because they cheated, and if that comes out, every world in the galaxy will come for Earth." Kale took a sharp step forward. "That's not true, isn't it?" the man replied. Before Liron could speak, a loud explosion ripped through the far wall of the chamber. Dust and debris filled the air. Shapes moved in the smoke, more soldiers, but these ones wore mismatched armor and human symbols painted on their shoulders. Kale's eyes widened. "Rebels," she whispered. The armored man cursed under his breath. This just got complicated. The rebels opened fire, forcing both the man's soldiers and Kale to dive for cover. Laren ducked behind an old mining cart, the case clutched to his chest. Blaster bolts lit the chamber in flashes of blue and red. The air smelled of burning metal. Through the chaos, one rebel grabbed Laren by the arm. "Come with us. You've got what we've been looking for." Laren hesitated, looking back at Kale still pinned behind a piece of machinery, shouting something he couldn't hear over the gunfire. The armored man was gone, vanished into the smoke. The rebel pulled harder. "We don't have time. If you want answers about that case, you'll get them, but not here." With no other choice, Laren followed. Cliffhanger. As they escaped through a hidden tunnel, the rebel leader whispered, "That file isn't just history. It's a death sentence for anyone who carries it." The hidden tunnel was narrow and damp. Drips of water echoed through the darkness as Laren followed the rebel leader, the case still clutched tight in his hands. They walked for what felt like hours, until the tunnel opened into a small underground chamber lit by soft, flickering lamps. There, waiting in the corner, sat an old woman. Her hair was silver, her uniform tattered, but her eyes sharp and steady watched him as if she already knew everything. "You found me?" she said quietly. Laren blinked. "You're the last witness." She nodded. "And you are the fool who's going to make my story heard again?" The rebel leader stepped forward. "He has the file, ma'am. The whole thing." The old woman's gaze fixed on the case in Laren's hands. "Then it's time you knew why they erased it." She motioned for him to open it. Laren hesitated, then unlocked the latches. Inside was not just a data crystal, but a small black cube etched with strange human-made markings. "That," the woman said, "is why the galaxy fears us." Laren frowned. "What is it?" "A memory device." She replied, "It holds the truth of the battle they erased. Not the fake version in your archives, not the lies they feed the Union, but the real thing." She took a deep breath. 50 years ago, the alien armada was unstoppable. No fleet could match them, but we had something else. Something other species dared to use. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "We didn't fight them ship to ship. We rewrote their minds." Laren's chest tightened. "You mean?" "Yes," she said. "We hacked their command AI, rewired their leaders, made them believe they were losing, when in truth, we'd barely scratched them. They surrendered to ghosts we created in their heads." The rebel leader added, "It wasn't a victory of honor. It was psychological war on a scale the galaxy had never seen, and it worked." "But," the woman continued, "it terrified the Union. They realized if humans could do this once, we could do it again. To anyone, anytime." Laren swallowed hard. "So they erased you?" "Erased the whole thing." She gave a bitter smile. "They erased us. Most of the crew vanished, officially killed in battle. I survived. I've been hiding ever since." The rebel leader glanced at Laren. "Now you understand why carrying that file is dangerous. The second it's public, the Union will do anything to silence you." Laren stared at the cube. "But the truth stays hidden, humans remain. A joke, a minor species, forgotten." The old woman leaned closer, her eyes like steel. "And if it's revealed, every empire will come for Earth because they'll know what we're capable of." Silence hung in the room. The choice felt heavier than anything Laren had faced. Then, from deep in the tunnel, came the faint echo of boots. Many boots. The Union had found them. The rebel leader reached for his weapon. "They're here. Decide now." Laren gripped the cube, heart pounding.